Hello and welcome to Tech Deals. Everything you need to know about installing Windows XP on a retro gaming computer in 2020. This is my long-awaited, many-time delayed how to install Windows XP on a retro computer in 2020 install guide. I have got a lot to show you here, and this is going to be a long video. Even though we've trimmed it up tremendously and taken a lot of the extra fluff out, it's still not going to be a short video. There will be a variety of links down in the video description below. Those links are accurate and current as of the publishing of this video, but of course, there is a chance and a possibility they age with time. If any of them don't work, leave a comment down below and I will certainly take a look. If you want to run an actual bare metal Windows XP computer on at least reasonably period correct hardware, you've come to the right video. Now you can certainly run most Windows XP games on Windows 7 and Windows 10. You can in fact even run many Windows XP games on Linux, in a virtual machine and so on. So many of you may actually want to go that route. And if there's just one or two games you want to play, figuring out how to make them work on something more modern actually probably makes a lot more sense. This is for the truly dedicated and those who just simply want a vintage bare metal Windows XP machine. This is the second time I have filmed this video. I've spent, frankly, way too many hours on this so far because the first time was, shall we say, fraught with so many problems, I scrapped it and started. In fact, I completely wiped the drives after setting everything up and did it all over again. Because, man, I learned a lot. I've installed Windows XP probably more than any other operating system in my life. Between all of my years of IT support, my years of supporting companies and doing consulting, it must be thousands of times I've installed Windows XP. But it honestly has been a couple of years from now since the last time I did it. And the last time I did it, which I think was about 3 or 4 years ago, wasn't that bad. Put the Windows XP install CD in, run Windows Update, download a web browser, get your antivirus running. Everything's fine. Steam still worked, a variety of, not all game launchers, but a lot of stuff still worked. Fast forward to 2020, and they don't. In fact, let me give you the TLDR version right up front. If you're watching this going, ooh, do I want to do this? That sounds like it might be difficult. Should I watch this video? Well, obviously, I hope everyone watches this video, but maybe you guys don't want to, I understand. TLDR. You can absolutely get Windows XP set up, installed, patched, updated, drivered, and the whole 9 yards with two big caveats in 2020. Number one, it's an offline machine. There's no more patching, there's no more updating, there's no more anything. It's when everything is set up the way you want it, you got all your files and everything on it, unplug the network cable, and boom, you're done. You effectively at this point have a fixed in-point time computer that's never being updated again, and you might as well just not even have the thing online. And for those of you who think, well, I've got a bunch of older games in Steam, I've got some older retro games in various launchers, I'll just download those and run and install them. No, you won't. Nothing works anymore. I'm going to take you through this. I'm going to talk about it a little bit throughout this video. But the very short version is not even the stuff that used to work even just a year or two ago still works. There used to be a hack to get Steam. In fact, even as recently as the beginning of 2020, you could still run an older version of Steam and get your older games installed and run. That doesn't work anymore. Believe me, I tried. I tried several variations and iterations of it, and they've completely killed it. Good old games. They support classic games, although they really refer to themselves as GOG now. Their Galaxy launcher doesn't work. Offline installers do. But as a general rule, you're going to need a standalone offline version, be it from GOG, or be it from original disks, or be it from any other source you might obtain it from. You're going to need a static offline installer just like you would have back before Steam launched back in 2004. If you've got that, you will need two other things. You'll need a CD-ROM with Windows XP, either Home or Pro, depending on which version you're going to run. And you're going to need a USB thumb drive, and you're going to need a Windows 10 computer in order to actually go download everything. And yes, you do need a modern computer because a lot of websites that you will get retro drivers from don't really work right on Windows XP. I'm not joking when I say this is an offline setup. Chrome doesn't work. Firefox doesn't work. Firefox kind of sort of works on a few websites. There is a long-term support version of Firefox which kind of works, except for websites it doesn't, but it's not being updated and hasn't been for a while. Chrome doesn't work. Internet Explorer is a joke. Windows Update doesn't work. You can't run Windows Update anymore. It really, truly is out of its time and place. And I know a lot of people would say, wow, Windows XP forever, when it was retired and end-of-lifed in April of 2014. For the next year on the internet, I remember message boards and forums and everybody's like, oh, Windows XP, they can't make me go to Windows 7. They can't make me go to Windows 8. I'm going to run Windows XP forever. Well, you had a couple of years you could have forced it, but no. It's dead, gone, buried. For the purpose of online use, this thing is pretty useless. Windows 7 is not there yet, but it will be. So for all of you saying, I'm not installing Windows 10 Spyware Edition, well, you will eventually install Windows 10, or you will install Linux, or nothing will work. Now, at the moment, Windows 7 is less than a year from end of life. It went end of life in January of 2020. I'm actually recording what I'm speaking to you right now in September of 2020. Windows 7 still works. Windows XP still worked 9 months after it retired too. In fact, it worked for a number of years. But then things slowly start breaking. Windows 7 probably has another 2 years of useful function in it. But then it's going to start to fall apart. There's just going to come a point at where things just don't get updated and supported. There's a number of things, DirectX 12, which don't work with Windows 7, and you're going to have to upgrade. So if you want to keep up with modern software, eventually that train's going to run you over to welcome to modern progress. In any case, you'll need a USB thumb drive. I'm going to take you through this entire install process, and then at the end, I will have some final thoughts for you on this entire interesting experience after we get this thing set up, running, and running well. This is the boot menu. It is the first thing you'll see if you press F12 on an older Dell, or it's a different key on whether you have an HP or Compact or something else. But on Dells, you press F12 and you get to a boot menu. You can see here we have 2 hard disks installed. Not really, these are solid state drives, Crucial MX300 750 gig drives, wonderful, wonderful drives. And then we come down here and you can see CD-ROM. I have the Windows XP Service Pack 3 reinstallation CD installed, so we're going to select CD-ROM and get Windows XP installed. Press F6 if you need to install a third-party SCSI or RAID driver. It has been forever since I've seen that message. I last installed Windows XP in 2013 on this exact machine, interestingly enough, and it's just 7 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun. Of course, Windows XP was officially end-of-lifed in April of 2014, and most of us haven't looked back since, except today when we're doing just that. In fact, as you see Windows set up and install here, you'll notice it goes through a series of checks and tests for various drivers, including there was an ISA driver there for ISA or Industry Standard Architecture. There's PCMCIA, PC card support. These are all things that largely don't exist anymore, but they did 20 years ago. Windows XP came out in October of 2001, so it's not 20 years old yet, but it's getting real close. Setup is starting Windows. Interestingly enough, Windows does not require a pretty graphical user interface. There is a command line mode and functionally a text mode to Windows, which is how they do the setup. Now, this is very old school here with basically a text-based setup. If you install Windows 8, Windows 10, it's all graphical user interface because, again, the world moved on. But this was 2001, which was certainly a different time. Welcome to Setup. This portion of the setup program prepares Microsoft Windows XP to run on your computer. To set up Windows now, press Enter. And if you don't want to set up Windows now, why are you running the Setup CD? The Windows XP licensing agreement. Raise your hand in the comment section below if you have ever read this entire document completely with all the words. Have even lawyers read all of this? Take a look at this nonsense. This is me just hitting page down. I don't even have words. Oh my, it's still going. Oh, we finally reached the end of it. Do I agree or disagree? Do I have a choice? F8, I don't agree. If one of the following Windows XP installations is damaged, Setup can try to repair it. Yes, I do have Windows XP on here. This is my second attempt to film this video. Long story, but we're going to hit Escape. Don't repair. And there you can see we have partition space on the drive. Actually, both drives are partitioned. And I'm going to delete both partitions. And yes, we want to press L to delete that. And we want to delete this partition. Delete. Continue. Yes, L. We're going to delete that. And the reason we're going to do that, quite simply, is because, well, let's just say it was an adventure. Format the partition using the NTFS file system quick. Please wait while Setup formats the partition. Now we're going to accelerate this tremendously because otherwise we'll be here for a couple of minutes and you don't want to watch it. But the short version is, I've done this setup once and discovered all kinds of challenges and problems. And I'm doing it again to give you the concise version after I have learned what needs to be done to set this up. I initially was just going to do my first impression, and 4 hours of filming and a lot of head smashing on the desk later, I decided to refilm the entire thing because it was a lot of, oh, that doesn't work, and oh, that doesn't work, and oh, why doesn't that work, and oh, that didn't work. Half the video was filled with what doesn't work. And so instead, this video is going to show you what does work, because trying to edit that 4 hours down to a watchable video would have been, let's just say poor XD, our video editor, would not have been a happy camper. So we're going to accelerate this and fast forward through the setup process and get to the end. Microsoft Windows XP. I have not seen this logo since yesterday when I filmed this video the first time. No, but besides this, I have not seen this for a long time. It has been 6 years. No, actually, it was 5 years. It might have been 2015, now that I think about it, that I actually wiped Windows XP from this machine. I probably had it on there. I installed it in 2013 and probably wiped it and put Windows 7 on this in 2015. Just as Windows 10 was coming out. But Windows 7 runs actually pretty well on this machine. Windows 10 does not. An exciting new look. Windows XP Professional supports a visual design that combines a sleek look, clean lines, and appealing colors with a task-oriented design and exceptionally streamlined navigation. Thank you, Microsoft scriptwriter person. The redesigned Start menu makes it easier to find important information and to access the programs you use most frequently. By automatically cleaning up the notification area of the taskbar and grouping related taskbar items, Windows XP makes it easier to switch between programs and to open, view, or close multiple items at the same time. Try the easiest Windows yet. Windows XP makes it easy to manage all of your information. We've enhanced, blah, blah. It is cool that Windows XP did include integrated CD recording, so it could write to CDRs and CRWs without needing third-party software. It was a huge improvement over the previous Windows in many ways, although it broke a lot of compatibility. I remember when we moved to Windows XP. Now, I'd already moved to Windows 2000 personally because Windows Millennium Edition was terrible. Windows 98 SE was good, but the Windows 98 line, 95, 98, 98 SE, was getting long in the tooth for later generation hardware. Once we got to about 2000, the Athlons came out. Pentium 3s, you were getting up to 733, 800 megahertz. RAM was increasing, storage was increasing, and the old DOS-based Windows line, as advanced as it was Windows 98 Second Edition, which is really the one to run today in my personal opinion. I mean, you can run ME, but Windows 98 Second Edition, it certainly was a great advancement over previous versions of Windows in many ways, but it's worth noting that Windows 98 SE is a mostly 32-bit OS with a lot of legacy 16-bit code in there, on top of a 16-bit DOS that was originally designed for a CPU that came out in 1978. So in 1998, you've got an operating system that is running on a chip that originally came out 20 years before. Now, 20 years might be like, well, that's not that long ago. It is in the computer world. In the computer world, it might as well be an eon ago. The age of the 1970s, the age of the 1980s. It's like the age of Ultron. Must be a long time. Nah, it's a couple of days. But in the computer world, it definitely is a very long time. When you insert a floppy disk, zip disk, CD, or memory card, man, do you remember zip disks? Those things were so unreliable. I had multiple zip drives, and none of them survived. They all ended up with the click of death. Regional and language options allow you to change the way numbers, dates, and currencies are displayed. You can add support for additional languages and change your location setting. How about we don't? We need a name. How about we type in Tech Deals? Computer name, Tech Deals XP. Oh, you must be joking. Fine. How about we do that? And we have today's date. It is Tuesday, August 18th at 4 a.m. Yes, it is, actually. Change that to Central Time because we are in the great state of Texas. Choose whether you use typical or custom settings. The more recent versions of Windows don't even ask you this. If they detect a network, they just run. Well, we'll choose typical for now. This computer is not on a network. Well, it is. This is actually a very confusing question, but you leave the default there as workgroup. Workgroup is just what local peer-to-peer networks are called in Microsoft's world. That was true in the Windows 95 and 98 days. It's true in Windows XP, and it's still true in Windows 10 today. I have a question for all of you down in the comment section. Have any of you ever used the settings transfer wizard? This wizard was designed to allow you to transfer settings between your old computer and your new computer. I've never used it. I've never seen it used. I can't imagine trusting such a tool to move all of my files and settings from one computer to another. That's just me personally. Windows XP includes the most secure version of Internet Explorer to date. That was Internet Explorer 6 for those of you playing the home game. And you know, honestly, in some regards, it was true. The day Windows XP launched with Internet Explorer 6, it was new and secure. Of course, it became a joke over time, but well, don't most things? If you look at the setup will complete in approximately time, and you'll see how fast that's counting down, that's because Windows XP is not expecting to find a solid-state drive. In all honesty, Windows XP is also not expecting to find a Core 2 quad at 2.4 gigahertz with 4 gigs of RAM. When this operating system came out, it was developed for like Pentium 2s at 450 megahertz. It was developed for AMD K6 450 megahertz chips. It was designed for systems with 128 megabytes of RAM, maybe even 64. Leave a comment down in the comment section. What is the smallest amount of RAM you've ever installed Windows XP on? 128? 64? Not 32, I hope, but I'm sure somebody has. I cannot remember off the top of my head what the actual minimum RAM requirements to even install this is. But we've got 4 gigabytes of RAM in here, and in 2001, that would have been really expensive. Part of me wishes that I had kept my original Windows 98 computer and not upgraded to Windows 2000 and Windows XP and kept that machine in place. In fact, there's a whole bunch of computers throughout time that I wish I had kept. Of course, I'm sure that, between money and space and time, it's easy to say today I wish I could snap my fingers and suddenly have 20 years worth of computers on the shelf, but putting it all back together today is sure. You can see that the background of Windows kind of popped through there for a second, because it's really running Windows underneath. The shell, the start menu, the taskbar, those are just shells on the core of Windows. To improve the appearance of visual elements, Windows will automatically adjust your screen resolution. Well, thank you very much. Hit OK to continue. This still isn't the right screen resolution. Oh, isn't that pretty? Hello, Windows XP. That only plays once, though. Thank you for purchasing Microsoft Windows XP. Let's spend a few minutes. We are still not set up, folks. Oh my goodness. You can install Windows 10 from first boot to Windows Desktop in less than 5 minutes. This is nuts. Help protect my PC by turning on automatic updates. Well, we can do that, but it's not going to work. Windows Update on Windows XP no longer works. And they want another name. We just typed in a name before. Tech Deals. And the enter key doesn't work. You have to actually click Next. So we went through all of that to type in 2 things, click one box and hit Finish. Fair enough. There once was a fairy called Nuff. Welcome. Oh, well, thank you. You gonna invite me in for some tea and biscuits, are you? First things first, let's get the resolution corrected. Settings, 1080p. There we go. Arrange the icons. Your computer might be at risk. Antivirus software might not be installed. Click this balloon to fix this problem. There is no longer any really effective antivirus for Windows XP at this point. Even the free stuff, AVG, Avast, etc., none of it supports Windows XP any longer. JetFlash Transcend found new hardware. Disk drive. Sweet. Your new hardware is installed and ready to use. We'll hit Start. We'll hit My Computer. So you can see the removable disk F right here, and when we click on it, you will find one file. This is interesting. Windows XP does not, by default, come with support for exFAT file system out of the box. You instead have to run this package updater, and that adds support. And the reason for this is because my other USB thumb drive that I actually have all of the files installed on is an exFAT file system. Just goes to show progress that's been made and things you take for granted that are not supported. So a quick reboot and we can put the other thumb drive in. We are back in Windows XP and I've inserted my other USB thumb drive. You can see here it says, what do we want to do? Let's open the folder to view files, and we have a ton of files here. You'll notice I have some classic games and a Steam XP version here, because Steam is actually no longer supported on XP. This is a version designed to run there. We'll get to all those in just a minute. First things first, we need to do some driver setup. Now, I have already downloaded these files on my Windows 10 computer. And if you've got a Windows XP computer as your only computer, some of this is going to be a challenge because things don't like working. Websites have trouble. So what I've got here is I've got Internet Explorer 8. I've got Firefox, this is the last extended support release that works on Windows XP. Intel chipset software installation, the network installation, because we're not actually on the network yet, the Realtek sound drivers, and the unofficial Windows XP Service Pack 4. This has all the rolled up service packs from Service Pack 3 to end of support April 2014. First things first, let's go ahead and install the Intel chipset software installation utility. And we'll just take the standard location on C for the Dell drivers. And it's going to go through its install routine. Yes, this program will install the Intel chipset drivers for this computer. And, yes, you can read all of this if you really want, but we're not going to do that. And thankfully, due to the magic of solid-state drives, this doesn't take very long. Click Next to continue, and yes, it wants to restart. We'll be back in just a second. Here we are back at Windows, and now we're going to install the network drivers so that we can actually get online. I actually thought this machine came with this is the Gigabit and Fast Ethernet NIC. For some reason, I was under the impression that this computer had a 1 gigabit Ethernet connection built in. It, in fact, does not. It has a fast Ethernet or a 100 megabit Ethernet port, not a gigabit port. Not that it really matters for a machine of this vintage, and I'm, of course, not going to leave this plugged in anyway, so it really doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and put the Realtek audio sound drivers in. Even though we're not really using them, we'll put them in anyway. Now, the reason I say we're not using them is we have a real Creative Labs Audiology 2 ZS sound card. But since the sound is here, we'll go ahead and put the Realtek drivers in. Here we are back at the Windows desktop, and before we go back to our installations, you see this, your computer might be at risk, antivirus software might not be installed. Again, I mentioned before that there really is no current antivirus software. We might install one just to at least put something in, but for the moment, I'm going to turn this alert off because it's kind of annoying. Go back to my computer, and this time we're going to go ahead and install Internet Explorer 8. And the reason for Internet Explorer 8 is not because I plan to use it. It is horribly, terribly out of date, and you should not use it. But there are some programs and applications that use some of the back-end coding for Internet Explorer, and there are reasons to have the updated version at least to get as sort of secure as possible. But of course, I do not plan to actually do anything with Internet Explorer 8. This just gets the computer as up-to-date as humanly possible. Another restart, and then we'll put Firefox on. We are back into Windows, coming back to my computer. It is time to get Firefox set up. That's fairly quick to extract, but then again, we do have a Core 2 Quad at 2.4 gigahertz, which for Windows XP is very, very nice. We'll go ahead and install that as standard, and we'll make Firefox our default web browser. We do not want to import anything. And here's Firefox. The next thing we want to install is the Windows XP Service Pack 4, or I should say unofficial Service Pack 4. Now, this can be obtained in several locations. I downloaded this from Major Geeks, but there's multiple places across the web you can download it. It's been put together by dedicated fans who have been trying to maintain support for Windows XP. You could individually download all of these service packs and patches individually. Service Pack 3 was the last official service pack that Microsoft produced for Windows XP. And while Windows Update was still running and still working, you could install this and then go run Windows Update. But even on a solid-state drive, even on a nice computer like this, it would take hours to get them all because they would download individually, they'd run a patch individually, change files, and then set aside for a reboot, and then the next one would run and set aside files, and then you'd have to reboot and then run Windows Update again, and then it'd find more stuff. And it just took absolutely forever. So what we're doing here is we're basically doing a roll-up patch. This is all of the updates between Service Pack 3 and the end of support in April of 2014. Windows XP Service Pack 4. Make sure you do all the things. We'll hit next. This is the unofficial Service Pack 4, includes all hotfixes released for Microsoft Windows XP Service Pack. This is an unofficial release. Please test it before deployment. This product is not supported by Microsoft Corporation. Well, of course not, because they don't support it anymore. Do we want to archive the files? Sure, why not? This is going to take some time, so our lovely editor XD will fast forward through this. And we'll be back in just a minute. And this is complete. You have successfully completed the Service Pack 4 setup wizard. To apply the changes, the wizard has to restart Windows. Of course it does. We'll hit finish, and we'll be back in just a minute. And we are back into Windows. I've already pulled up the NVIDIA driver page. I want to show this to you because you can still download the latest Windows XP drivers. This particular driver supports the GeForce GTX 750 Ti that we have installed in this computer. Now, these are not the current drivers. These are just the last drivers that ever supported Windows XP. So there's no further driver updates. In fact, there's no further updates of almost any kind across all of the various stuff that is in here. So once this computer is fully up to date, everything's patched, everything's done, you might as well just unplug the Ethernet cable. You're done. The machine is in a static configuration that you can pretty much leave it in for all time. We'll go ahead and click on that to run it. Yes, we want to run it. Yes, we want to install the drivers. We'll go ahead and close Firefox. This will get the proper drivers installed so we have some proper game acceleration. Now, AMD, of course, will have some other last version of drivers, and if you have a different card, then you might actually download a different driver depending upon what card you actually install. The 750 Ti, the GTX 950, and the GTX 960 were the last NVIDIA cards that had the most up-to-date drivers. There is a way to make the drivers work with, you can see here, nothing is currently installed. No need to do a clean install because we've never done it, but this will put Network Frame 4, GeForce Experience, Physics, etc. There is technically a way to make a GTX 970 and 980 work, but not from those stock drivers. The interesting thing is for Windows XP, this may not be the ideal card. A GTX 285 may be the better card because some older games are going to want you to go back in time to an older version of the drivers. These latest drivers from just a little over a year and a half ago, these drivers may be too new for games that came out in 2001, 2002, 2003. You might actually want to go back to drivers from 2010, 2012, but you can't do that on a GTX 750 Ti or GTX 950 because those drivers don't support this hardware. So if you're truly building a retro machine, something to think about is an older card, while it's going to use more power, make more heat, might be preferable to a newer card. And the installation is complete. You can see we've got everything successfully installed. And of course, it wants another reboot. We'll be back in just a minute. Next up, we need to install the Audiology 2 ZS drivers. Creative Labs still has these on their site here. End of service life. The product you have selected has been classified as end of service life. Yeah, we know. We are running an obsolete, outdated. You must be joking. What is 8 plus 1? I think that's 9. We'll hit agree. So, save file. And that will download very quickly. A few seconds remaining. So, thankfully, they've still put the drivers on here. Close the web browser. Yes, I want to close both tabs. Now, you can certainly use integrated sound. By the time this computer came around, the integrated sound built into computers wasn't terrible. The Realtek 800 series audio in here is not awful. Yes, we know. It is not awful. However, for the kind of retro games that we want to play on here, for the early 2000s or maybe even late 90s games that we want to run on Windows XP, because most of the games released in like 98, 99 would also run on XP. Not all would, but most would. The Creative Labs real hardware sound card comes with some benefits that the software sound does. Really, the Creative Game Port is not. Okay, fine. We have hardware EAX support. We have hardware 3D sound acceleration. The quality of sound between a real Creative Labs sound card from the early 2000s versus the built-in sound from the late 2000s on a Dell, the Creative Labs sound card is going to sound better. Now, fast forward to 2010 and the differences diminish rapidly. The new ALC 1220 audio or 1200 audio in most modern motherboards absolutely good enough for most people, but not for everybody. Yes, we want to restart. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome to Creative Software Auto Update. Do we want to run it right now? What's actually hiding behind here? Oh, some program running in the background. Yes, let's go ahead and run it right now. Contacting the Creative Software Auto Update service. Now, I actually have to say that I was surprised. When I did this the first time and I played with the software drivers, I was surprised to see that this actually works. Do you want to install this software? Sure, why not? It wants to do something. And Windows has blocked this software because it can't find. I don't want you to block this software. Install more options. Always install software from Creative Labs. Install. ActiveX fail control to load. Products on your system. Audiology 2. Check for updates. Status checking for updates. Windows. I don't actually, you know what occurs to me? It occurs to me, you know what I need to do? I need to disable, this is going, yes, the ActiveX control. So here's what we need to do for this. We need to go into Control Panel, Internet Options, we don't care about that. Security, Custom Level, active, automatic prompting for ActiveX controls, download signed prompt, enable. Whoo, danger, Will Robinson, danger. Actually, we'll leave those on prompt. Prompt, script ActiveX controls marked safe for enable, automatic prompting for file downloads. Okay. So, yes, we want to change. Hit OK. Close that. Back. Install. So, there we go. Now we can check for updates. This is one of those things that is just due to the age of the system and the fact that none of this is checking properly anymore. The following updates are important updates for optimal performance of certain features. Well, we absolutely must have those. Essential. Required components in order for proper software updates cannot be unselected. Well, fine, be that way. Let's see, we've got critical, recommended media source player, media source plugin. We don't care about those. So what does it want to install? It wants to install Wave Studio, Media Source Player 5, and Media Source DVD Audio Player. Interesting. I don't think I want these two programs. Do I want Media Source 5? This is a... No, I don't want Media Source 5. This is a audio play, edit, record, 8, 16, and 24-bit wave data. Holy smokes. You know, to be honest, I don't need that. Let's see here. Do I want that? I really don't want that either. I guess we're not going to install any of it. Okay, I thought about it, but scratch all of that. But I'm glad I showed it to you because the ActiveX control part lets you know, hey, there's a thing here you need to pay attention to. Now, there's something I have avoided doing all the way to this point, which is run Windows Update. And I'm just going to run Windows Update really quick and show you why this is utterly and completely broken. It simply will not run. Connecting to site 13.64.25.102. It will sit here for a while. It will ponder its life choices. It will ponder Microsoft's life choices. Welcome to Internet Explorer 8. Yes, yes. Ask me later. There's a problem with this website security certificate. Continue to this website. Your web browser is out of date. Display blocked content. You will need to update your browser to use the site. Oh, so Microsoft support does not accept Windows IE 8. Now, what's interesting is you can come here to Windows Update, and this screen does display. But if you try to pull up the updates, they will not run. Give it a second. Wait for it. Wait for it. Now we're running Windows Update, not Microsoft Update. You can download and install Microsoft Update, but it doesn't work either. I spent 4 hours trying to make it work. I tried every setting under the sun, and it just does not work. So we'll come back over here to Microsoft Update. That actually opens a new window for some reason. Try Microsoft Update today. Now you can get updates for Windows, Office, and other Microsoft applications all in one place. Microsoft Update is a new service that brings you all the Yeah. So we need to install this add-on for all users. Install, and it will certainly do so. Automatic updates are on. Check for updates. We'll just go ahead and hit Express. Not to worry, this will clearly update our computer and make everything work properly. And of course, it does not. And the reason for this is because Windows Update or Microsoft Update no longer work on Windows XP. The next thing we need to do is come over to Control Panel, and we want to go to Administrative Tools, Computer Management, and there's a very good reason for this. We want to come over to Disk Management. That is because we have 2 solid-state drives. Now, I showed these during the boot process and setup, but we haven't mentioned them since. And we are going to create a new partition on our second disk here. Primary partition. That's weird. I'm used to thinking of MBTs and G, whatever the G one is in new Windows. G. Actually, we'll go ahead and name this S for storage. New volume. Storage. Perform a quick format. Next. Finish. And that really doesn't take very long at all. It's formatting, but it'll be finished here in just a second. So now we've got 2 drives. In fact, if I hit properties on this one, I can name this a boot. And now we've got a C and a S drive. Closing that out and closing that out. Come back over to my computer. You can see there we've got 2 internal drives. I am going to come over to our F drive, and I'm going to take all of these files, and I'm going to hit cut, and I'm going to go back up to S, and I'm going to drop all of these files onto the S drive. And since this is going to take a while, we're going to cut here, and we'll be back when this is done. I said earlier that there is no effective modern antivirus software available for Windows XP. It turns out I was wrong. Norton 360 Premier Edition 2013 runs on Windows XP. I found a brand new boxed copy with a product key sitting on one of my shelves. And if I come over here, Norton is in maintenance mode for Windows XP, but it is not completely ended. Essentially, they are not providing new support and features. They're not doing new updates, but they are, and this is an important point, you will continue to enjoy the virus protection promise, and you will continue to receive the latest malware definitions. So you are receiving updates to protect against viruses and malware, etc. They're just not really further developing the product because the OS is frozen in time at this point. Now, I do have an original CD, and I thought about installing it off of the CD, but seriously, why? I mean, this will just download the latest version, and then I just don't have to mess around with it. Enjoy the hassle-free ongoing protection year to year. Turn on automatic renewal for your subscription and get these. Norton Utilities Premium, a complimentary offer to help clean and speed your Windows PC by fixing common issues. Virus protection promise from the moment you subscribe, blah, blah, etc. Pre-billing notification. Yeah, how about a big, huge no? Skip that, because they're going to want billing information. Install protection on this PC or Mac. If you're using the device you want to protect, click the button below to install. We're going to hit agree and download, and we're going to hit save. And then over here, it is downloaded. We'll hit run, and assuming it all works, it should hopefully run. Norton Download Manager. At this point, we'll go ahead and close our web browser, and we'll let the Norton Download Manager take over. Now, some of you watching this may very well say, wait a minute, why are you using Norton? Isn't it true that you can download Avast and they still provide protection updates? Well, they do, and I did look that up, and yes, you can download a couple of the free antivirus tools, and they do list the fact that they still provide protection updates. However, okay, I don't really have a good reason as to why you might not use those, but I found this on the shelf, and I had written off running antivirus on this, and then I found this on the shelf, and I went back and did some more research and reading, and then I looked up the others a bit more, and they said not supported, but updates. There you go. Initializing Norton 360 Premier. It is hilarious that this is still functional. What's in the install option? Well, yeah, okay. And we'll hit agree and install. I used to run Norton 360 on all of my computers back in the Windows XP days. I had an office between 2006 and 2009 where we had, probably an average of 15 employees. I must have had 20 computers in the office, and I regularly picked up these boxes. Various boxes would support anywhere between 1 and 10 PCs. I actually have 2 of these on the shelf. These are both for 3 PCs. But there was also a Norton 360 Premier Edition that I'd pick up for like $50 off of eBay. They were more in the stores and directly from Norton, of course, but they were like 40 or 50 bucks on eBay. And they would protect 10 PCs at once. So it's like $5 per PC. I don't think we need to see the tour. Let's see here. Security. You are at risk. If we hit fix now, it wants to run live update. Well, I certainly hope it does. So for like $5 per PC per year, I was able to get antivirus and malware protection on all of my Office PCs. That was a fairly good deal. Now, today in Windows 10 provides virus protection. And the truth is your protection is through your browser and some other things as much as anything else. Because to be completely blunt, there's so much junk on the internet. It is difficult to stay 100% safe. Smart browsing, not clicking random links, goes a long way towards, shall we say, not getting kersniffled. That's a word, I just made it up. So, a good solid backup strategy. Hey, live update finished. That was pretty quick. We did that in real time. Auto protect, complete, close. You are now protected. Backup is not set up. I don't really care. Your identity is protected. Really? Performance protected. Last scan. Well, if I hit quick scan, this really shouldn't actually take very long considering that there's nothing on here except Windows. But Windows now includes antivirus, and it didn't back then. Now, they did have, Live Security Essentials, I believe, back then. So I guess at some point in the Windows XP era, they did come out with an antivirus program. And of course, companies like Norton and McAfee just complained bitterly, going, how dare you do this? That's an antitrust. You can't include antivirus because we sell antivirus, to which that's absurd. Operating systems should defend you against security threats. That's kind of a built-in feature. Now, is the built-in Microsoft security in Windows 10 as good as all the third-party products? I don't know. Probably not. However, it's free, it's included, it's fairly lightweight, and that's what I go with. I just stopped using these at some point. I can't tell you why. Probably because these are good enough. Hey, look, we are safe. Can you manually run live update here? Or, oh, there it is. So if I run live update, I'm sure it'll say there are no updates available. Checking for updates. Yep, we are secure. So now we are going to close this, and you'll see it's still running down here in the bottom right. Now, if you look over on the left-hand side of the screen, you will see a new shortcut. Shortcut to Steam. I've already set this up. I did not record this. I'm going to show you in a second how this was done. It's really not that hard. This is going to open up. It's going to connect. Now, it says up here in the upper right-hand corner, Steam will stop running on Windows XP in 0 days. If you click on it, it will open when it gets around to it, a web browser, and it will say that as of January 1st, yes, enable all Norton extensions. Allow, and it has to download, of course. It's always something, isn't it? Norton Safe Web has been installed. Next. I guess we can close that. Starting on January 1st, 2019, Steam will officially stop supporting Windows XP. The Steam client will no longer run, etc. This is awful, and the reason is if you have older games that don't like running on modern operating systems, how are you supposed to run them if Steam won't run? Now, the sad reality is this is probably not going to work forever. According to Steam, because it uses an integrated version of Chrome, this should not work. Notice it works. In fact, these are our current deals. There was, where was it? Flight Sim just came out. I am recording this on August 18th, 2020. Your web browser does not support the minimums. Well, yes, so I can't watch a broadcast. Big deal. But it plays these videos. And I can even make it go full screen. And the only reason it hiccups is because I have a Core 2 quad and not a modern machine. But ignoring the hiccup from the visual quality, look at that, that's gorgeous. That's absolutely gorgeous. And we're not going to let it run anymore for fear of the content being blocked. So some bits of it don't work, but you know, you've got the full store here. And of course, I don't have anything in my library because this is just a test account. This is a dummy account to put on here. And you can hit install. Steam must now be restarted. Oh, interesting. Well, that's not very helpful. Here you can see the free-to-play games section on Steam, and there are a ton of things here. I'm going to click on Top Sellers, and I'm going to come down here to Team Fortress 2, a very popular game. 2007 definitely falls within the category of Windows XP. We'll hit play now, and it will give us the option to download and install it. Of course, it has to create the local cache files, which takes just a second. And we'll come down to Manage Downloads. And we definitely do not limit bandwidth to no limit. Hit OK. There we go. That's much better. Otherwise, this would take forever plus 1 day if we had throttling in place. Now, I only have a 100 megabit Ethernet connection in this computer, and we are blessed and very fortunate that we have gigabit fiber to our office. So this is not going to download at the 100 megabytes per second it is technically capable of doing. Although, given the processing power and limitations of Windows XP, I'm kind of curious, if I stuck a gigabit Ethernet connection in here, would it actually download at 100 megabytes per second? I have found that the download speed on Steam can sometimes drive RAM and CPU usage through the roof when you're using a full 100 megabytes per second, which is roughly a gigabit, 110, but whatever. And so even if we had a faster connection, it may not run as fast because we may very well be limited via CPU and GPU. Notice that we are using 22, 34, 25. We're using a decent chunk of our CPU. You can see it bouncing between the various cores here. And so if we increased our download speed by a factor of 10, I'll bet that CPU usage would be at 100%. I'll bet you would not be getting full download speed. We might be getting half. Now, you'll notice up here that it says 12 minutes, and that's wonderful. We're not going to sit here and wait for that to finish because, well, that's not what we're going to do. I'm going to hit back, and I'm going to show you something. Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Now, this is here in my library, and it opens up, and you go, great, wonderful, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, released 2012. If we scroll down to this game, you'll see supports Windows XP. Core 2 Duo. Well, we have a Core 2 Quad. We have 4 gigabytes of RAM, minimum 2. Video card has to be 256 megs. We've got a 2 gig card. Clearly no problem. This game will run on this computer just fine. Steam must now be restarted in order to receive the latest update. You won't be able to continue using Steam until it has restarted. Okay, so we'll hit Restart Steam, and we'll wait for this to reboot. Connecting Steam account. Tech Deals loads up. Okay, fine. That seems like it should be okay. In fact, if I come over here to Library, you'll see that Team Fortress 2 is downloading just as it should. But wait a minute. Where is our game? Interesting question. So we'll come back over here and we'll come back to Browse. Yes, it is really this slow. I had forgotten how slow Core 2 quads really are. Yes, we're running Windows XP, and yes, in theory, hey, World of Warships. Yes, in theory, it should be quick. But yeah, that's... Come back over here to Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And we'll go ahead and hit play now. Steam must now be restarted in order to receive the latest update. In short, you will never be able to play CSGO through Steam on Windows XP again, because the client is out of date and it will not download it. I have not recorded because I was playing around with it. I have tried a half a dozen games. A few worked, a few didn't. It's hit and miss. If it is your goal in 2020 to play your Steam library, Windows 7 is where it is at. You will just hit your head against the wall trying to do a runaround to make this work. It's not going to. Yes, you could absolutely play some games. You could most certainly play some games. But the truth of the matter is, the support has gotten worse. It is not going to get better. And eventually, all of it is going to stop working. I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but the short version is Windows XP in 2020 is an offline experience. Turn everything off, unplug the Ethernet cable. You know what? Forget the antivirus. You don't even need the antivirus, because if you disconnect Ethernet and never plug it in again, well, then you probably don't need it. What's the real solution? Good old games. Offline game installers. Now, these games over here, you saw me copying them earlier. This is Star Wars Rebellion from Good Old Games. I own a legit copy. I may have the files, but that's because I did the offline installer. And if we run this, you'll notice, welcome, you're about to start the installation for Star Wars Rebellion. This game requires 512 megabytes of disk space and will be installed to c/GOG/game/Star Wars Rebellion. Yes, I have read and accept the EULA. We'll hit install. And here it goes. Now, the Good Old Games Galaxy Launcher does not, I repeat, does not work on Windows XP. The only way to use GOG games on Windows XP is to download the offline installers. However, the fact that you can do this means that GOG won, Steam sucks. Because Steam's failure to support Windows XP while continuing to have Windows XP games in their store, and people who bought Windows XP games years ago, and they've now effectively lost access to them if they don't run on modern operating systems, is not a good thing. Now, let's not play music, shall we? We will turn the sound effects down, and we will turn this down, and we will go back here. Now, for those of you who have never played a game like this, Defense, Fleets, Personnel, Idle Personnel, this is an interesting game. And the reason it's skewed at the moment, if you're looking at the aspect ratio, it doesn't quite look right. And that's because, well, at least on my monitor, it's being stretched because this is a 640 by 480 game and it's being stretched to ultra wide. Although as I look over at the video capture software, two things. It looks like it has a line at the bottom, so this possibly will have one in the actual video. But the aspect ratio actually looks correct, which is interesting. The hardware capture card I'm using to capture this might be correcting for the aspect ratio. However, it's cutting the bottom off. Well, it's not really meant for this sort of thing. We'll exit out of that, come back to Windows. So that's Star Wars Rebellion. So we'll come back over here to S. Let's do something just a little bit newer. Let's do Star Trek Bridge Commander. And these are WinRAR files. Well, thankfully I already had WinRAR installed, so we're going to go ahead and extract these. There's two different versions. This is a GOG thing. There is an ISO version to get you the mountable disk. There's a patch and then a fix for Windows, then a manual. And then there's a pre-installed version which looks like it has all the files. I wonder if this can simply be run rather than having a CD, which is interesting. The ISO version is larger, but that makes sense. You know, the decompression speed here is interesting. Some things on this are really fast and feel very snappy and they're not a problem. And other things are so slow. Using this is definitely an interesting experience. I wonder if you just run this, if it'll run. I guess we'll find out. Our ship is equipped with the tactical simulation mode from, oh man, I remember, I used to play this so much. I didn't just download this. Holy smokes. Well, first of all, we're obviously going to give ourselves the Sovereign because what else are you going to do? We are going to fight Cardassian ships. And you know what? The Romulans are going to cooperate. So we've got one Galaxy, one Vorcha, two Birds of Prey against a fleet of a whole pile of ships. And then we're going to hit start. Oh, where do I need to target? I'll go ahead and put my phasers here. I'm too far away for the torpedoes to hit. And actually, that's hitting the rear of his ship, and he's maneuvering too much. If I fired now, they would all miss. So how about we just target the center of the ship? And they will hit, or they won't. Nah, they all missed. He is small and maneuverable, and I was a little bit too far away. This is not going to matter. And they're doomed. Here, we'll just, there you go. We're clear. We have won. I want to go play this again. This game is nearly 20 years old, and that's the most fun I've had in gaming in weeks. I want to do it again. All right, we'll hit Alt F4, and we'll pop straight back to the Windows desktop. Good old games. No need for clients. No need. You know what? There's a fix, and you could read the manual here, for example. If we double-click on the manual, it will open up in... This is actually a PDF, so you can view it on a modern machine or look at it on a tablet or whatever. Or you can print it out if you really want to burn the paper. Let's see here. Fire, torpedoes, select speed, impulse reverse. There's lots to it. Green alert, yellow alert, and red alert. Where's brown alert? I think you definitely need that. Okay, that's way too much fun. I'm not going to show you the rest of them. You can assume that these are going to run. And of course, like I said, these were downloaded from Good Old Games. Highly, highly, highly recommended. The conclusion here is really, really simple. If you want to play an offline machine with older games, that game right there has a maximum resolution of 1024 by 768. It is not meant for modern machines. Will it run on Windows 10? I actually have no idea whatsoever. It might, but I know for sure it runs here. Thank you all so much for watching all of that. 2 gold stars for all of you for sitting through that entire guide. Thank you very much to XD for doing an awesome job editing it, because that was a lot of footage recorded across 4 separate files with a lot of trial and error. And of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, that was the complete second round of this, because the first round was brutal. The first round was many hours of figuring out what did work and what didn't work and the right way to show this. And so I ended up completely wiping the drive and doing it all over again. Do I recommend this? No. For most of you, this is not worth the trouble. Go run an emulator, go run a virtual machine, find compatibility fixes. And if there's 1 or 2 games that just you can't get working, ask yourself, how many hours of time is it worth to make 1 or 2 games work? I gotta say, after going through this entire process, it's been interesting from an intellectual point of view. It's been interesting from I enjoy computers and technology, and I just have fun doing this. Tinkering with this was enjoyable. I had fun making this video, but I don't recommend most of you do it, because it's like once you're done and once you have the machine there, then what? There's absolutely older programs you can run, and there's certainly some programs that run better on a retro machine. You've got the Audiology 2 ZS card, which provides true EAX support and true hardware sound support, unlike more modern machines. That's nice, but at the end of the day, do you have enough games and enough programs that run very, very well on Windows XP and just are very difficult to run on modern hardware? I'm willing to bet for most of you the answer is very few. When I first started recording, I did not honestly expect to run into as many problems as I did. As I said at the beginning of the video, I was shocked that even Windows Update didn't work, and I thought I could get the Steam hack and the Steam workaround to work. They don't work anymore. I tried several variations and several different versions trying to get it working, and it just, no. Now, I had no problem doing offline installers. I owned several original games from back in the day. No problem. I downloaded several games from Good Old Games and did the installation, got the files, put them on here, and no problem. In fact, several of the offline installers ran right on Windows XP without any problem, set everything up, ran the games, so no problem, right? Well, yes and no. Most of those will also run on Windows 10, so what's the point? Windows 98 might actually be easier to make run than this was. And of course, everything I showed you is specific to this machine and the hardware I put in here, but it's only a slight variation for your own hardware. It's kind of like an old DOS machine now, or an old Commodore 64 or Apple IIe or something similar like that. A machine frozen in time. I basically at this point have unplugged it and I won't update it anymore. This machine is going to stay like this. Well, the sad reality is it's probably going to stay like this and go up on the shelf, and I'll point to it every once in a while and say, that's my Windows XP machine. But, it doesn't really have any other purpose. It's a Core 2 quad. It doesn't have enough memory. It doesn't have enough performance to do anything modern, and I've got nicer machines. And of course, this particular machine's not really worth anything these days. If it was a custom build, nah, it really isn't worth anything anyway. So if you have an older machine and you want a fun project, you can follow along with this guide. But if any of you have a Core 2 quad laying around, to be completely honest, maybe install Linux on it and play around with Linux and have some fun with that. You might actually get more use and more utility out of the computer with Linux installed on it than you would with Windows XP. Maybe I'll switch the SSDs around. I got 2 750 gig SSDs in there. I could absolutely leave Windows XP installed on one, and I could put Linux on the other and dual boot. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below if you'd like to see Linux installed on this machine. Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you love it. Remember to subscribe to the channel with the big huge red button directly below. Questions, comments, thoughts, feedback, suggestions, you know where the comment section is. Links in the video description below. I will link to lots of things. I will link to the unofficial Service Pack 4. I will link to the various drivers I used. I will link to, well, to be honest, almost everything is customized. But the Service Pack 4, which of course, if you Google search Service Pack 4 unofficial, you'll find it. And if the links I put in the video description below are no longer valid, Google is your friend. You'll find an updated version of it, I'm sure. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see all of you next time.